Back. Oh shit. Oh wow, first death. First death. Crazy. Crazy. I wonder where it's gonna spawn me at. Hey guys, welcome to the swamp, where it's what's under the water that really matters. Today I'm taking a look at Control. Yeah, I know it's been out since August of this year, and I'm finally getting around to reviewing it. One of the things with Control is when it first came out, I really wasn't quite sure what it was. I mean, I knew it was a game. I knew it was something I was interested in because it was made by Remedy, who also did Max Payne, which I just loved. And they also did Quantum Break, which I played a little bit of, and I'd heard some similar aspects to Control that Quantum Break had as far as what you could do in the game. And then, of course, they did Alan Wake, and that's probably one of my favorite games. So I kind of knew more or less of what I might be expected or expecting in the game, but again, I wasn't quite sure. So anyway, I'm going to dive into it and really right off the bat, it's one of those games that I really, really enjoyed. I can't say that enough. Because of the other games, I mean, if you like the games that I mentioned, more than likely you're probably going to like Control. It's one of those games that you're probably going to have to play like I did in order to figure it out. And at the end of it, you're probably still going to have questions too. Anyway, with that said, I'll dive through the graphics. I'll dive into the gameplay, the music and sound, stuff like that. I'll let you know what my experiences are, and then my pros and cons for those likes or dislikes, and then you guys can be the judge if it's something that you might like or may not like. With that said, let's dive into it. So you play as Jesse Faden. She's the new director of the FBC Paranormal that's based out of New York. Her main objective in the game is to kind of figure out the paranormal activity that's taking place, why, which is known as hiss. As you go through the game, you'll encounter NPCs. They'll give you main quests. You'll also get some side quests, and then those are rewarded with experience points, and you'll gain access to various weapons in the game. They have various guns, and you'll be able to utilize those and upgrade those as you progress throughout the game. So I think overall, the gameplay for me, it was fairly good. I really can't say I encountered too many bugs or glitches that really that struck me as something that would make me stop playing the game. I mean, you're going to have normal pop in things like that here and there, but it wasn't to the point to where it caused a major issue. I think there were a few times I might have fallen, through the world floor, or might have gotten stuck just because I was trying to do something odd, maybe trying to jump to places I probably shouldn't have been. But other than that, for the most part, I mean, the game is a really, really solid, fun game. I think one of the things that I enjoy the most is probably the powers. As you go through, you'll be able to upgrade your skills, your powers. You'll have access to those, and you gain those in various forms, which I'll leave that kind of spoilery because you do have secret bosses in the game. They're optional, and you can face those or not face those, and by doing so, you do pick up certain things. So again, not getting into that detail, that's one of the things that kind of really intrigued me, was being able to do that. You venture out and kind of explore, and you'll come across those areas in the game that definitely present itself as a challenge in certain aspects. The puzzle solving in the game was fun. I didn't feel like it was overly complicated. You do primarily, like I said, stay in the headquarter area. There are instances where you will leave that area, and those are probably some of the moments I wish that I had more of. I really thought they did a good job with that. Overall, I really, really had fun with the game. I will say, graphically, I thought the game, for the most part, really did well on all parts. I mean, the shadowing in the game I felt was done well. as far as some of the character models and the NPCs, they had that funk face, I'll call it. From time to time, it kind of looks like someone smashed their face against the wall, or just they looked a little bit out of place. But I didn't really let that bother me. It was just I always kind of felt like something was a little bit off, like maybe they were kind of paranormal themselves. But overall, just the game is just I don't know. It's one of those things to where it's not like it's the most beautiful game, but it's not like it's one of those games to where it's horrible or it's just pixelated. I mean, the game has its own beauty, and it's one of those that you really have to experience it. It's kind of like there's this sepia overlay tone as you go through the game, and it's beautifully done. It's just that when you get into some of the close-ups of the facial animations, at times it does seem a bit awkward. I think one of the things that really stands out to me, backing up a little bit and going back to the gameplay element, or just graphically, yeah, I guess it kind of falls under that as well. But when the developers made the game, I remember not only the destructible environments, which were really cool as you swish by and papers fly off desk, or you're able to pick up a book off of a desk and be able to throw that, but the thing that really stood out to me was the level of detail. I remember passing by this marker board, and on the marker board, as I looked at it, most of the time you're going to see like some faint scribble, and it really doesn't amount to much of anything. But this time I noticed that when I zoomed in on these letters, it was actually full form letters that made sense. It was a paragraph, and it goes into detail that really provided more lore, more story. And that was something I found all throughout the game that the developers did to add so much more immersion. And that's something I can certainly appreciate. When we talk about graphics, also that would pertain to like water reflections or light reflections off of water puddles that you might see on the floor. I felt like those were done really well. Little blood splatters that you might find on doorways or on the floor that kind of lead into other areas. I felt like those look really well too. It kind of brings in that mystery of what happened here and why. And so you may find a blood trail somewhere that leads you from one point into another room. And it just goes back to that little level of detail kind of tied into, the graphic aspect of it that really pulls you into the game. And I certainly felt like those little things were so well done. It just adds so much more to the game that it makes it that much more enjoyable. I will say, while some of the story is told through some of the NPCs, there is a lot of reading in the game. You're going to find that you're going to be picking up, paper after paper after book, and you're going to be reading a lot of content that really kind of lays out what's happened and the path ahead of you. And so if you're a person that really doesn't like to read, then you may find that as a turnoff. I didn't find it as bad, and I'll put it this way. I generally don't like reading a lot of context or dialogue in games, but I did find that it was very useful in this game. There were certain pieces of paper that I would come across that had text on it that would identify certain areas. And just to give you an example, it actually laid out why there is green or yellow or red above the door, and why it was put in place, who put it there. And that kind of made me aware from very early on in the game of when I'm going from point A to point B, kind of pay attention to your surroundings, and you'll find little things like that throughout the game. So therefore, while there is a lot of dialogue or a lot of text that you have to read, it's not as bad as some of the other games, because this game tends to really pull you in if you spend the time to read it. While the majority of the game takes place in a federal building, I felt like they did a really good job of kind of making it almost feel like you're in different areas. So the best way I can describe it in, let's say, an open world game, you'll have different environments that you'll come across. And so you may have a snowy region or a swampy region or a mountainous region or a beachy region. Well, kind of condense that down and throw that inside this federal building, but not to that extent. But condense it down to the simple fact that not every room is going to look the same, more or less. They do, but they don't. Not every area is going to feel the same. The developers did a really good job of breaking the game up because it is confined to one building again, and you, without spoiling too much, you do get outside the building, but the majority of your gameplay is going to transpire there. So I really felt like they did a great job just providing that diversity within the building and being able to provide a player something to look forward to. So I will leave it at that. That way, when you do play the game, and you'll think back and go, man, you know what? He's right. There's just so much here that's been kind of condensed down, but yet it's the same, but looks so different. It's so cool. And it's just one of the things that I really, really enjoyed, that they were able to do so much with what they had. When I talk about the audio in the game, and we talked about the character voices and how they were done fairly well, the actual music in the game I thought was done well. I mean, it's very intense. When you come into some of the fight sequences, you'll find that the music will start kicking in and just playing, and it's blowing you away with just the synthesizer beats going on in the background. It just really ups that level of intensity. As far as the gun sounds, picking up bodies and hurling them across the room and hearing their body thud against another body while taking out 5 enemies, those were done very well. You certainly got a sense of they did their homework when it came to the sounds in the game. One of the things that really stood out to me as you're transversing from one area to another, and as you will soon find out, you'll see bodies that are kind of just adrift in midair, and they're just sitting there, and the chanting that goes on in the game is almost mesmerizing to a point. It's a little freaky. And those are things I felt that was really, really well done. You'll come across TVs if you're ever familiar with playing Alan Wake. I refer to these TVs as the Dharma TVs if you've ever watched Lost, because that's what it reminds me of. And let me tell you, those are some freaky little episodes that you'll see. And I want to say you really should take the time to watch those if you find the TVs. It's kind of like little secrets, if you will. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. And then it's those little details that just really blow me away when you do come across those in the games. Let's not hurry up. Let's when we come to like bugs or issues in the game, I do remember that there was an issue with the map that may have been fixed.
There was nothing. I figured they would hide some shit up
sometimes
there.
When you load up your map in Control, it wouldn't always load. You'd be staring at a blank screen. If you backed out of it, went back into it, the map would load up. So that was kind of one of the few bugs I encountered. It wasn't problematic, but if you were in the middle of trying to go from point A to point B, and due to the verticality in the game, which I felt was another issue that I struggled with, you might find yourself lost. I recall spending a lot of time moving around from area to area to area. So it's just one of those things to where just be aware of the fact that that bug could still be there as far as the map is concerned. It may not be, but it's possible. It's very possible. And there are fast travel points in the game. So when you get to certain, parts of the area or the map that you're exploring, you can save and do your upgrades at those locations. And then, of course, you can fast travel throughout those points as well, which is really cool if you don't really feel like transversing back through the area, because that was one of the things that I struggle with is the verticality of the game, because there are a lot of a lot of verticality going on with going up and down and back and forth. So anyway, the fast travel points are really cool. You do have different enemy types in the game. I will say that that's probably one area that I wish that they could have added a little bit more to. And while I enjoyed the enemies that I've faced, I would like to have seen a greater variety of them. The bosses I felt were pretty well done, nothing overly too complicated. But again, I wish I would have had more of those as well. But overall, it was a solid thing that they tried to do there. I will say when you get to some of these save points in the games, the cool thing about it is it actually will change the area up completely versus the way that it might have appeared before. When you come across them, you may be locked or blocked out of an area, and as soon as you're able to access that area, it kind of goes into this cutscene somatic, and it transforms the area so that you do have access to it. And those are the times that control really, really, really shines, and it's probably one of the areas that I certainly enjoyed the most. So at the end of the day, I really, really enjoyed the game. It's one that will be coming out with some DLC eventually. They do have that planned. And I feel like if you enjoyed the type of games that I mentioned at the very beginning, that you're probably going to enjoy this. It's well worth the money. It's well worth the full asking price of $60 US. If you can catch it on sale, which I think currently due to the holidays, it's on sale. I would say go ahead and snag that. Overall, I had fun with the game. I feel like there are enough challenges that they've added in the game that's replayable. You'll encounter just random challenges when mid-mission, and those are things that you could just, after completing the main story, you could go back and do at any point in time. The way that the skill leveling system is set up, the guns, the way it's set up, I feel like all of that was implemented in a way that makes it very fun for you as a player. So with that said, if you like the video, make sure to hit that like button for me. If you dislike it, make sure to hit the dislike. Leave some comments in the comment section down below. Let me know if you've played the game. Maybe you liked it. Maybe you didn't like it. Maybe you think they should crumble this thing up and throw it in the trash. Overall, I want to see more games like this. I would love to see another Alan Wake game. Maybe Remedy, hint, hint, we'll get around to making another one of those. But in the meantime, we have Control to look forward to and the DLC. So you guys enjoy your evening or morning or weekend or day. And peace out, and I'll catch you on the next review.